Hello kindergarten friends, happy Tuesday. I hope you all enjoyed your long weekend. We got the extra day off this week. We had Monday off for President's Day, and I hope you all were able to celebrate Valentine's Day on Sunday with your families. This week we're going to be talking about some new things. We're in a new unit of study. We're in Unit 4 and we are in Week 1. So we're going to be talking about then and now. So things that have happened in the past and how they look now. And for the next few weeks, we're going to learn different ways that we can learn about things from the past. We can learn from pictures, and we can learn from videos, we can learn from family members, from books, those different kinds of things. And so we'll be looking into that and seeing how things used to be and how they are different now. And over here, we're going to be learning some new vocabulary words. We're going to be looking at time, changes, just like you used to be a baby and now you're in kindergarten. Discover, so you can discover different things from the past. You could dig up fossils and dinosaur bones, or maybe find pottery from the ancient people who used to live here. And then we're going to be talking about different traditions. And a lot of times different traditions do focus around holidays, but there can also be family traditions, things that you do in your home that don't have a holiday, but just things you do as a family. Okay, so together we're going to be reading the stories Cars Are Always Changing, and then we'll be looking at pages 16 through 19 today in our packets. Remember, if you're an 8A student, you'll be doing them here in class with Miss Beery or Mrs. Morgan. If you are a B-Day student, you'll be doing them in the classroom as well just later on this week. So I'd love for you just to follow along and get some extra practice as you are listening to the story and listening to how we sound out those different words. Okay, so as we're reading the stories this week, we're going to be looking at what can we learn from the past. So as we read the story, Cars Are Always Changing, we're going to see what can we learn from the past. What were things that they had in the past and what do we have now? Okay, boys and girls, so here's our story. I'm on page 30 and 31. We're going to look over here to the right first and see some of those new vocabulary words. We have crank, radio, engine, CD player. Read the text and look at the pictures to learn about how cars have changed. Gary Miller is the author, loves to hike, kayak, and fish. When he is not exploring the outdoors, you will probably find him reading a mystery novel or playing guitars. So you were able to learn some of those words that we have talked about in previous weeks. We learned how you can be interested in different kinds of books, and he's interested in mystery novels, so that's neat. Over here is the beginning of our story, Cars Always Changing, written by Gary Miller, and this is a nonfiction story. So these are real things, real cars, real pictures. It's not a fairy tale or a nonfiction story that isn't going to happen in real life because it is information that is real. So in the back we see a car from long ago, and then up front we see a car that you may see on the road today. Okay, boys and girls, as I'm reading it, I want you to follow along with Miss Beery, listen for those letters and sounds, and then you can read it along with me if you would like to go back and do the tape again. My mom took me to the car museum. I learned a lot about cars. They are always changing. And you can see this is a picture of a car museum. If you look, you can see that their car isn't actually working, and it is in a museum where they have cement floors. There's kind of some cones around the parts, and you aren't going to just drive off of these cars. They're for show, they're for display. So they used to be cars that people would drive, but not today. Over here on the next page, it says the first cars did not start with a key. Instead, you had to turn a crank. So if you look on the front of the car here, you would have to crank the car to start it. There wasn't just a turn knob like the key, or even nowadays where you have the buttons to turn on the car. You have to go to the front and then crank it. And then also if you look at the picture, there was no hood above your car. So if it was raining, it would just rain on you. There was no windshield to get all the bugs and different things. There was no air conditioning, there was no heater because there was no top of the car. And then when they did get tops in the car, there still was open windows. There wasn't any way to protect you from the weather elements like the heat or the cold. And you just had to bundle up or just take the heat if you were out there in those kinds of cars. It's changed a lot from what we have now. Now we have the heat in the car to make sure we're warm, or we have the air conditioning to keep us cool in the summer. Okay, let's look at the next page. Okay, I'm going to start here on the left. Remember, you always go left to right, top to bottom. This car was made in 1913. Its engine was small. It could not go very fast. So if you look at the car, you see that we have the driver with the big steering wheel here, and then his passenger. There wasn't any seat belts, and it almost looks like these are like couches. They're padded, and you see the big wheels. They almost look like bicycle wheels. So back then, the vehicles didn't really go very fast. So even if you are in a car, it still wasn't going to go very fast and still take you a long time to get to places. Okay, next page. The next car started with a key. This car is from 1921. It had a big engine. It could go fast. So you see here, they now have lights on the front of the car so you can drive it in the dark. And it was going a lot faster, so that way people could go to different places and take them less time than it would if they were trying to ride in a horse and buggy or on a horse. Because before cars, that's the way you travel. You travel maybe by train or by horses. You'd ride the horses to different places. So this is a more updated car, and it was able to drive a lot faster. Okay, next page. Every year, cars makers invented new parts. The parts make cars better and more fun. So each year, as cars were changing, they were also getting better. Just like think about things nowadays. We are able to have Chromebooks in our classroom. Before, we weren't able to have a laptop that we could just carry around or a tablet. You used to have to be able to sit on a desktop computer where it had to sit on a desk, plug into the wall. You couldn't walk around to different places. So just like cars, they keep on changing, and just like computers, they keep on changing too. Or even think about some of the toys you have. Some of them, when you were younger, they've already changed. So maybe you had an old tablet that didn't really go very fast, and you couldn't really do too much on it, and now you have a newer tablet that can do a lot more things that hold a lot more games. This car is from the 1950s. It has a radio. People loved radios. So before, when you had a car, you didn't have any way to listen to music. You weren't able to plug in your cell phone to hear the songs. You couldn't listen to Kids Bop in the car. You could listen to the radio. But still, there was no way to plug a phone in because we didn't have cell phones back then. But it was really exciting when you were able to finally listen to the radio in the car and be able to drive different places and hear music, which is really exciting for people back in the 1950s. And even then, it just keeps on changing because now we can't listen to music in the car, right? We can't listen to our phones or our iPods in the car. Okay, the car is from 1987. It has a CD player. Back then, CDs were brand new. So before that, they used to have cassette tapes. And then they had CD players, which is very exciting. So you were able to put the disc in there and listen to a lot more songs at once. And remember, they keep on changing. So now we're able to plug our phone into the radio or into your car so that way you can hear music from that. But being able to listen to a whole CD used to be very exciting. Cars are always changing. Now we have cars that drive themselves. Maybe future cars will fly. Okay, so now there's cars that are able to drive themselves. So if you see a Tesla, they have programs that will actually drive the car for you. So back when we had the crank car at the very beginning of the story, they weren't able to drive the cars themselves, right? You had to crank it to get it going. But now there's cars that can even drive themselves. So maybe one day they'll have flying cars. We just don't know because things keep on changing. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to the beginning, look at the beginning pages of our chapter, and then we're going to look at pages 16 through 19 and work on the long O sound. Okay, making communication better. Long ago, people used a quill to write messages. So a quill is a feather that they would dip into the ink and then they would write with it. They would dip the quill in the ink, then they would write the message on the paper. Today, we can use computers to write messages. So now, Miss Beery can text your mommy and daddy, right? We can write emails. Miss Beery can write an email to Miss Maths and let her know how awesome we're doing in kindergarten, right? We can send pictures. We can send videos on Dojo too, right? We can show parents how awesome you're doing in the class. So technology has really changed. Back here, we're able to use a quill with ink, and now we can do all those things and even more on the computer. Okay, let's look at the pages 16 through 19 together. Okay, boys and girls, we're going to be looking for the long O sound. So we've been working with a magic E. So when we have a magic E with a word that has an O in it, we will say O. If it doesn't, then it'll have a short sound and be aw. So this week, Miss Beery has my pages and page protectors, and I have my dry erase marker. If you are at home with your book, make sure you get your pencil ready so you can follow along. Our first word is log. And if we have the aw in the word, we're going to circle it. If it says O, then we were going to underline it. So our first one is log. Is that a long sound, an aw, O, or is it a short sound, aw? So is it a long sound, O, or a short sound, aw? L, aw, g, aw. So we're going to circle it for the short sound. Next we have home. H-O-M. Is that a short A or a long O? It's a long O, so we're going to go ahead and underline it. Next we have fox. Ox. Ox. Is it the long O or is it the short A? It's the short A, so we're going to go ahead and circle it. Okay, next it's a scone. A scone is kind of like a muffin, and it looks like it is a chocolate scone. So we're going to listen for scone. Scone. Is that going to be a short A or a long O? It's going to be a long O, so we're going to go ahead and underline it. Next we have phone. Is phone a short A or a long O? It's a long O. Great job. We're going to go ahead and underline it. Next we have top. 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 Is that a short A or a long O? It's a short A. Very good. Go ahead and circle it. Next we have stop. So you can actually even see in the word, is there any magic E at the end? No. So listen to it again. Stop. Is that the short A or the long O? It's the short A, so we're going to go ahead and circle it. Okay, last one is hose. We don't need those hoses right now, right? Because it's pretty snowy and cold out there, but in the summer, you might like to play with the hose. So we have the hose. H-O-S. Is it a short A or a long O? It's a long O, so we're going to underline it. Great job, boys and girls. Let's go to the next side. Now we're going to look for the short O on the top and the long O on the bottom. So for the first one, we have R-O-D. Ready? R-A-D. One more time. R-A-D. Rod. Okay, go ahead and trace that. Each letter R-O-D. Now we're going to circle any picture that has the short O in it. Box. B-ox. Do you hear the short O? B-ox. Yes, you do. Go ahead and circle it. Next we have map. App. Do you hear the short O in map? Nope, I hear an A, the app, so we're going to cross it out. Next we have pot. Pot. Do you hear the short O in there? Pot. You do. Go ahead and circle it. Great job, boys and girls. Now you see down here we have R-O-D-E. We have that magic E. So you're more than welcome to pull out your highlighter or a special crayon, and you can go ahead and trace that magic E because we're going to be looking for the long O sound, the O in these words. So we have R-O-D-E. This time we're going to say R-O-D. R-O-D. Road. Go ahead and trace it. R-O-D-E. And now we're going to be looking for different pictures with the long O. Okay, boys and girls, it looks like a picture of water, and it could be a lake. So let's sound it out. Ready? O-ake. Do you hear the long O in there? Nope, go ahead and cross it out. Next we have rope. Er-ope. Er-ope. Do you hear the long O? You do. Go ahead and circle it. Next we have home. H-O-M. H-O-M. Do you hear the long O? You do. Go ahead and circle it. Okay, boys and girls, we're going to do one more set of pages. Go ahead and turn your page. Okay, boys and girls, we're going to do 2 more pages. Go ahead and turn your page, and we're going to do pages 18 and 19. Okay, boys and girls, I'm on page 18. I see some pictures and some words. We're going to tap them out, and then we're going to go ahead and trace them and write them. So our first one is T-O-P. Let's sound it out. Ta-op. Ta-op. Top. Go ahead and trace it. T-O-P. And write it T-O-P. And write it T-O-P. Wonderful. Next one, we have dot. D-ot. Sound it out. D-ot. Dot. Go ahead and trace it. D-O-T. And go ahead and write it. D-O-T. And again, D-O-T. Very good. Make sure you're taking your time. Make sure you're writing your letters the correct way. Make sure you're going all the way to the top, going all the way to the bottom. The next one I see R-O-P-E. So we do have that magic E. You can go ahead and highlight it. And let's go ahead and sound out the word. O, p. O, p. Rope. Go ahead and trace it. R, O, P, E. R, O, P, E. R, O, P, E. Great job. Okay, last page we're going to do together is we're going to look for more short O's and long O's. On the top row, we're going to be looking for the short O's, the A, and on the bottom row, we're going to be looking for the long O's, the O. Our first one is box, B-ox. Do you hear the short O in there? Go ahead and circle it. Great job. Next, we have sock, S-ock, S-ock. Do you hear the short O? I do too. Go ahead and circle it. Next, we have cat, K-at. Do you hear the short O? Nope, we don't. We need to cross it out. And the last one, mop, M-op. Do you hear the short O? I do too. Go ahead and circle it. Okay, next row, we have home, H-O-M. Do you hear the long O in home? I do. Go ahead and circle it. Next, we have rose, R-O-S, R-O-S. Do you hear the long O? I do too. Go ahead and circle it. Next is cone, just like we're practicing in math, right? K-O-N, K-O-N. Do you hear the long O? I do too. Go ahead and circle it. Last one, pan, P-A-N, P-A-N. Do you hear any O? I don't either. Go ahead and cross it out. Okay, boys and girls, you did a great job today. I can't wait to see you on our next language arts, and I hope you have a fabulous day. Bye, friends.